The Greek government is located in the southern part of Europe, the population of which is around 11 million people. And within that government, there is another government that is a home to many monks that have their own rules and their own laws. They live a different life there. Right now in Greece, it's a deep recession and default, but Mount Athos is not a part of it. There is no recession on Mount Athos. Everything is always fine there. They never have a recession. But how could that be? What is it, this Mount Athos? What is it really? What is the secret behind the eternal engine of Mount Athos? They're afraid to answer questions here. I asked him as a journalist, but he said he's afraid he's going to say something he would regret. I don't want to say anything I'll regret. When I look at all this, I wonder, how do they do it? How do they always live without a recession? So maybe they know something more than all of the businessmen in Greece. Why they don't have a recession, but everybody else has a recession? And that's the question. Holy Mount Athos, they call the west side of the Halkidiki Island. It is in touch with the Aegean Sea. Now, over 1,000 years in this monk society, the spiritual teaching has been protected and passed down through generations. Right now, Mount Athos is the main command center of the Christianity. We live in such an interesting place, and nowhere in the world is another holy Mount Athos like ours, and we're very proud of that. So let me ask you, the Greek person thinks that there's no more holy place on earth than this. Yes, correct. But how he can be sure? How does he know this? Well, when he walks outside, everything just looks very holy, very Christian-like. The first question that comes up is, how do we know that this place is holy? Why do we think that it's holy? This film is the result of our research. We put a goal in front of ourselves to answer this question. What is Mount Athos really? How did this monk society that consists of 20 monasteries become the command center of all of Christianity and Orthodox Church? Well, let's look. How do we go by understanding what is this Mount Athos? First thing that we ask ourselves is, what is it? What do we visually see? Visually, I see that it's an island. What else is there? What I see is Oranopolis, the city, and Thessaloniki, the city, that is packed full of stores that are full of goods from the holy mountain. And as a person with a healthy mind, first thing I can understand is that it's a factory that produces goods. That's the first fact that I see. So on Mount Athos, there's a very serious production. And I have to say that it's working very effectively. They're very effective. That keeps all of the stores stocked up in Athens and Greece. In other countries, all the stores are fully stocked. So before anything else, this is a factory. But for some reason, millions of people all over the world and all of Greece, for some strange reason, think this factory is holy. I don't know why, but the Greeks just feel that it's holy. Have you been there yourself? Yes, I have. You went to the actual Mount Athos. Yes, to the actual Mount Athos. We're in the center, the Gekaris city. We were in Vadapet and 5-6 other monasteries. this factory seems like it's kind of a mystical factory, or at least it's trying to make it seem like it is. Bottom line is that it exists, and it's been flourishing for more than 1,000 years. That's just what history can tell us. So what's the secret? If you go on the official site of Mount Athos, then you'll see that Mount Athos doesn't hide its financial passion. Go ahead and do your research. See how much they charge at auctions to show some holy things to the Russian churches and to the Russian people. See how much they charge to show some religious objects to different countries. So I would say that Mount Athos is not only a factory. I would say that at the same time it's a very serious art gallery that has very expensive things that they auction off. And this gallery travels all over the world and shows its products for huge amounts of money. They accuse me of trying to get in the way of the church making money. And no, I don't want to get in the way by any means. I just have personal questions that I don't understand. Why so much money goes into the church, but the church doesn't do anything for its people? And Nevzorov had said, and I agree that Nevzorov, he's not very tactical in his approach to the church. But when he asked, what did you, the church, for the past 2,000 years do for your people? Not one high priest could answer him. They said, we saved the faith. That's not a good answer. Such a huge church, Church of Christ, that's not a good answer. And those kind of questions wouldn't come up if the answers were obvious. But it's not obvious, and it's very hard to tell yourself to not ask yourself questions about that, what we see with our own eyes. But the most interesting, most of these things are not even hidden. Look at the picture in front of you. A regular person, when he first comes to Oronopolis, if he hasn't read or done research about Mount Athos, first thing that he sees is the factory. And all the salesmen say that all this is from holy Mount Athos. They say, hurry up and buy all this stuff, or you're not going to see the holiness. Completely honest, last time it wasn't like this. But at that time it was summer, so everything was probably already sold out. But this time, they have everything, from hats to sticks. There's honey, olive oil, wine, even their own vodka. They have everything. All ingredients that you can possibly sell, Afon sells them. And how Mr. Vishagin would say, it's probably without tax. Okay, so first thing we see is a serious factory. Your regular person, tourist, does not see anything else when he walks in there. And when he's walking down the streets of Thessaloniki, on every single corner, there's stores that say on top of them, gifts from the holy mountain. But don't let it fool you. Everything you have to pay for. There's no gifts. So the thing that's written on those stores is a lie. Everything is for money. You have to buy it. There's no gifts. Even with all these obvious things that we have just named, millions of people, by some strange reason, it's like they're hypnotized. And in this strange state of mind, they believe in the myths, the legends and the holiness of Mount Athos. Why is it like that? The main system of how they work with the clients is when the person has already got to Mount Athos, he already has convinced himself that it's holy.
Уже попал на Афон, он уже себя до этого убедил, что он святой.
Every family always wants to, and they have a plan to visit Mount Athos at least once per their lifetime. They want to go see the holiness and breathe the holy air. So let me ask you, so the people of Greece, they really think that this Mount Athos is holy? Well, yes, of course they do. It's not that the person that has gotten to Mount Athos saw some kind of holiness there or saw the people that are holy there. This person had already convinced himself before getting there that it's holy and everybody there is holy. And when he leaves there, he becomes a missionary. Just your regular old Christian missionary. And when he leaves, he starts to convince every single person around him that that's it, that there's no other God other than Christ. So what we have on our hands is somewhere in Greece, there's a mountain that for some reason everyone thinks is holy. But if you open your eyes and look at this without any emotion, you will see that it's a factory. A factory that in the last 1500 years is getting more and more and more clients. So what is the secret of this factory? Maybe it's something we can't see and it's mystical, in that what Mount Athos gives to its people. There has to be some kind of an explanation to this. What did Mount Athos do for all its people? Well, it prays for all its people. But how do we know that it prays? You know, this reminds me a little about the Jewish. The Jews, you know, they have the Orthodox Jews, they kind of have to where they put money together so that somebody else can fulfill what is said, you know, in their books to fulfill. Sounds very similar. Nobody wants to pray, so Mount Athos prays for everybody. Anyone and everyone can pray, but not to everyone that prays. The congregation brings the money. What's the difference between the monks of Athos and you? Because if there's no difference, then that means that you can go sit on some island, call it holy, and pray for others, and free yourself from the recession. It's possible that what differs them is their spirituality and their detachment from this world and so on. This is what most people think. But is this true? When you're traveling to Mount Athos, you see around you a huge amount of land that belongs to Mount Athos. But all that land is empty, so another question comes up. What does Mount Athos need all this land for? For what?
Для чего?
There's no answer. People are living there this holy life, spiritual life, then why do they need all this money and land and power? And you would think that if you would just have enough to sustain the island, right? But no. But no, for them, that's not enough. So my question is, where is this holiness? What we see, a huge commercial holding. You may ask, what's the reason that I'm making this movie? To put down Mount Athos? To put down all of Christianity? Nope. I just want people to learn to ask themselves questions and demand from the holy priests to fulfill their duty of the ranks that they carry, so that they can finally begin to start to get holy and spiritual. Any healthy-minded human gets this question in his head. What is holiness? Holiness is deeds. Deeds that a human does. Those actions that he does. and the
Степень
level
близости
of those
этих
deeds
поступков
as
к Богу.
close as
Но
they can
используя
get to God's
исследовательский
deeds.
подход
If
и
we do some
анализируя
research about
поступки
the deeds of the
монахов
monks
Афона,
and the high priests,
мы
we can
можем
see right
убедиться
away
в
that
том, что
there's nothing
сейчас ни о
holy
какой
about them.
святости речи даже
And when you
идти
start to
не
ask
может.
them, what does your
При
holiness
этом, когда вы
consist of?
начинаете уточнять, в чем же
Everything
их
ends
святость и
kind of like this.
высокодуховность, все
How
заканчивается
could you
примерно
ask such a
так.
question? Those are
Как ты
holy
смеешь?
people.
Это
I say,
святые
why?
люди.
Where's the
Почему?
holiness?
Где святость?
They say, you don't understand. They're already
Он
holy.
говорит, не понимаешь, они
They
есть
just are
святые.
holy.
Просто
That's
есть.
it. And
Ты
you
должен
must
в это
believe
поверить.
it. You have to
Ты
just
должен
accept,
креститься
do the cross
верить.
thing with your hand,
И ты должен
and
говорить, что
say,
я
I
просто
just
так
believe.
думаю. Мы так думаем.
And this
И вот
is
это самое
blasphemy.
главное богохульство, которое существует.
Focus your attention on the Bible.
Обратите
If you go
внимание,
off the Bible,
если вы ссылаетесь на
Jesus
Евангелие,
Christ,
то
throughout the whole
Христос
Bible,
всё
was
Евангелие
proving that
доказывал
he
свою
is
святость.
holy. Иоанn had
призвав
called
двоих
two of his
учеников
students
своих,
and sent
послал
them
к
to
Иисусу
Jesus to
спросить,
ask him,
«Ты ли
Are
тот,
you the
который
one that's
должен
supposed to
прийти,
come,
или ожидать
or
нам
do we
другого?»
keep on waiting?
Они, придя к
When they
Иисусу,
had came to
сказали,
Jesus, they
«Иоанн
said,
Креститель послал нас к тебе
Iwan had
спросить,
sent us to
ты ли
ask
тот,
you,
который
Are you
должен
the
прийти,
one that we've been
или
waiting
ожидать нам
for, or
другого?»
should we keep
А в то
waiting?
время он
And
многих
at that
исцелил
time,
от болезней
already
и
Jesus had
недугов
healed
и
many
от злых
people
духов.
and done
И
many
многим
deeds.
слепым
The
даровал
ones who are
зрение.
blind, he gave
И
them
сказал им
sight.
Иисус в ответ,
And Jesus had told
«Пойдите,
the two,
скажите Иоанну,
Go and
что
tell
вы видели и
Iwan
слышали,
that the blind
слепые
can now
прозревают,
see,
хромые
that
ходят,
ones who are
прокаженные
sick
очищаются,
are now
глухие слышат,
healed.
мертвые
The ones that are
воскресают,
deaf that can now
нищие
hear,
благовествуют».
ones who are dead now
Евангелие
arose from the dead.
Христос все
Throughout the
Евангелие
whole Bible,
доказывал
Jesus
свою
Christ
святость.
was proving his
И не
holiness,
стыдился.
and he was not
Они стыдятся
ashamed of it,
святость доказывать.
but they're ashamed of it.
Так какое отношение
So
эти
what do our
христианство
high
вообще
priests
имеет?
have even in common
таком
with
случае?
Christianity?
Если для них
If for them the
Евангелие не
Bible
то,
is not something that they look up to
на
at all,
эти вопросы
and
ответ
for all those questions, there's no
Но
answer.
у меня
But I have some
кое-какие
of the
ответы
answers.
на это есть.
Have you ever thought, was
Вы когда-нибудь
Christianity
задумывались,
always like this?
всегда ли православие было таким?
We can remember that in a certain time period, the time
Что
period
в
of
определенный момент
Ivan
времени,
Grozny,
во времена Ивана
in Russia
Грозного,
there was two sides
на
of
Руси
Christianity.
было два типа
The нестяжатели and the стяжатели.
нестяжатели.
That's a historical
Были
fact.
такие товарищи,
And
это
the church that
исторический
we
факт.
have now,
И
those are
нынешняя
called
сегодняшняя
стяжатели.
церковь, назовем их стяжатели.
And if
Вы
you can
помните,
remember, the
нестяжатели,
нестяжатели
как
were
монашеское
a movement
движение,
of monks
выступали против
against
монастырских
the monasteries
землевладений.
and the taking
При
over of
этом
the lands.
была вторая сторона.
And then there was the second side,
назовем
the
их
стяжатели. And they were
Они
a
выступали за
movement
необходимость
that
обладания
required
и
to gain
приумножения
more and
мирских
more and
благ.
more.
В итоге победили
The
стяжатели.
стяжатели had won.
Результат
The result
известен.
is well known.
При этом
The
позицию
Byzantine
нестяжателей
archiepiscops
также разделяли
were on the
византийские
side of the
архиепископы.
стяжатели.
К
On
примеру,
instance,
Евстафий
Yevstaf
Солунский,
Solunski
который говорил,
had
что
said
монахи вместо
that the
псалтырей
monks,
держат
instead
в
of the
руках весы
teaching, were
несправедливости
holding in their
и фальшивые
hand the
монеты,
scale
их
of
пальцы
unfairness,
приспосабливаются к
and their
карману
fingers were getting
крестьян.
used to the
Он
fake
требовал
cold
ограничений
coins, and they were
монастырских
making a
землевладений,
profit from the regular
которые наносят
Christians.
большой вред тем, кто на словах решил принять иноческий образ. Малым монастырям, по его мнению, вообще не стоило иметь своих земель.
Mount Athos was not always
Афон
the
не всегда
way
был таким,
it is
каким
now.
мы его знаем сегодня.
Only
Еще
600-700 years
6-7
ago,
веков назад
everything was
все было
different.
иначе.
So you can
Но для
get the
того, чтобы
understanding of the
возникло
full
представление
diapason
о
of the
полном
different
диапазоне
teachings
различных
that
течений
were
и формаций,
back then.
стоит
Other
заметить,
than
что кроме
нестяжатели and
стяжателей
стяжатели and
и
the
нестяжателей
traditional
традиционных
Christians,
религиозных организаций
there was a society that
классического
was completely
Средневековья
different from
существовало
all the
общество,
others.
которое в корне отличалось от всех остальных.
There
Было
was
такое
this type
общество.
of society. I would say
Я
it
бы
was
сказал,
kind of open,
полуоткрытое.
halfway. It was by no
Не
means
менее
less holy than Mount Athos.
святое.
These guys were extremely
особенно
interesting.
интересны.
What was
Чем
so
они
interesting
интересны?
about them? The
Интерес
interest
вызывает
that
ихняя
is
доктрина.
called upon is their
Она так и
doctrine.
называется, как Бог.
The name of their doctrine is just
То
that,
есть хочешь
like
быть богоподобным,
God.
веди себя
So if you want to be
как Бог.
holy,
Вот как
then
Бог себя ведет, так
well,
себя и веди.
be like
При
God.
этом
Their system of preparation consisted of two things. One was understanding how to be like God, and then being like God. So focus your attention on their doctrine. It's completely different from all the religions that you know today. The main difference is how they look at this holiness. It's simple. Let's look. What does God do? God, He gave you life, and so on and so on and so on. And He doesn't ask for anything back. Any organization on this planet tries to get back so much more and not do anything in return. And they say it's just for God and it's all holy, we're all holy. So I want you to understand the difference between those two things. So the role model here is God for the human. And all the religions of the world, they strive towards being like God in its role model state. You understand, right? And of course, all the actions of the high priests of all those religions, the actions should be like God. They have to act like God would act. But if you focus your attention, well, nobody does that. And now we can compare Mount Athos in the different states of history. And don't get us wrong, our goal is not to in any way try to measure the holiness of the mountain. We just want to show you the difference. Where our attention is focused is understanding how Mount Athos is so effective and what allows it for hundreds of years to be at the top of the religious market. What allows the growth and the flourishment of this commercial holding structure? The second part of the film has an applied effect to it. It's going to be a learning effect for businessmen and service providers, and for those who don't want to have the recession to have an effect on them by any means. You know, it doesn't really matter the holiness or the not holiness of this land. It matters that they are effective, and what they do is effective. And this corporation is much older than something, say, like a Mercedes corporation or Coca-Cola corporation. So this is why we decided to study this corporation. Their system includes technologies, people, management, and communication systems. To be able to understand the successful ways of Mount Athos, we have to look at the different elements separately. Let's look at the communication system. How do they keep the flow of customers going? Most companies strive over taking over a certain segment of the market so that they can have a monopoly and put their own rules in play. How did Mount Athos solve that problem? Okay, so we have a monopoly. So how do you get a monopoly? Well, the answer is really simple. We have something that's called baptism, and it's supposed to be done at birth. So nobody asks this human being which religion he wants to be a part of. Maybe he doesn't want to be a part of a religion, and that is breaking the human rights. You see, there is human rights, but Mount Athos and the Orthodox Church, they have their own rules. And if you're not baptized, it's impossible to get documents. You're pretty much not going to be part of society. It's something a local was telling us. If you don't baptize your child here, that's it. You're not part of the society. And this allows them to automatically get clients. But to them, even this is not enough. The system that allows the flow of customers is built in such a way to when a person visits Mount Athos, he becomes somebody who tries to move forward and sell the products and move the religion forward. And when that happens, what does that person turn into? Well, most of the time he turns into a missionary. that type of person, he went through difficult times and, you know, trying to see some kind of holiness when he got there, but he didn't see it. But after everything he went through, he cannot turn around and just agree that it was all worthless. So he just starts saying, I believe. So what starts to happen is people start to hypnotize themselves, and this allows for the constant flow of customers. From the finance standpoint, this allows to receive all four types of money. The jamming money, the money that allows to pay bills and have day-to-day money. And this type of money, the first type of money, is earned by the selling of goods, of religious goods. The second category, the second type of money, is the distance money. Here we're talking about bigger sums of money. Second type of money in this finance system comes from, say, donations. Third type of money in this finance system is earned by the factory that we spoke about. And last but not least, that's the big contracts, the big money. And an example, it would be the picture gallery, the art gallery that's located on Mount Athos. They rent out those arts to different countries for millions of dollars just so people can look at them. The next important block of the business is people. They're very strong and brutal guys here. Most of the priests, the Russian priests, you can touch them with your finger and they fall apart. Of course, it's not all of them. It's just here, most of them are just really strong people. When I was there, the people are very quiet, very disciplined, and they have a certain way of life that's very disciplined. They live by the Byzantine time, so at night they wake up to pray. So they follow a certain day-to-day disciplined way of life. Mount Athos, on there have a huge library. Mount Athos has 2 academies. As you understand, both those are spiritual academies. One is a secret one, and the other one that prepares children up until they're 18. As you can see on Mount Athos, all the conditions are in place for the organization to work like a clock. Hundreds of years of history shows to us that approaching your business in such a manner, you are guaranteed to reach the results. And we haven't even talked about their vertical hierarchy that is in place there. Karuли, поселения, скиты, and the monastery. So we have things that we can do here in the city that we cannot do there. Can you please tell me what? Well, like arguing and fighting. You can't shoot each other, lots of things. You can't even take your clothes off and go swimming. And besides all that, they are, I would say, very faithful, religious fanatics, I would say. And everyone is afraid of them here. And I can see why, because in 2013 the Greek police tried to raid one of the monasteries because they had a court order to remove one of the priests from the monastery. The monks used Molotov cocktails and rocks and didn't allow the police to enter. But when a question occurs for anybody of their holiness, this is kind of what happens here. They say, you're evil, you're godless, you don't know anything.
безбожник.
I say, wait, hold on a second. Well, look at all the stores. Look how they act.
Посмотри на магазины, посмотри
What do you
на это,
mean they're
посмотри на
holy?
поведение
Look at
этих
them.
людей.
They're
Какие они
pirates.
святые, они пираты, самые
They're real
натуральные.
pirates.
А теперь
Now,
посмотрите
take a look
на
at
ваших
your
людей.
people.
Они
Are they
готовы
ready to
защищать ваш
protect your
бизнес
business
с
with
коктейлями
Molotov
Молотова в
cocktails in
руках?
their hands?
Еще один
And one more
фактор,
thing that I kind
который
of understood
я для себя
is that
как бы
here,
вывесил,
the Orthodox religion
это то,
puts
что
itself
здесь,
against the Greek government and
православие,
anybody,
лице
really.
Афона, тут главный,
They're completely against
оно
everybody.
жестко противопоставляет себя государству и чему-либо вообще, ну все равно чему.
So let's remember what other organization
Какая
is
еще
completely
организация
against government
противопоставляет
and all
себе
other
государству?
organizations.
Организованная преступность.
The answer is the
Может ли быть
organized
так,
crime. Could
что
it be
между
possible that
преступностью и церковным
those who
аппаратом
govern the Orthodox
существует
Church
определенная
and
связь?
those in organized crime
Исследуем
have
этот
some
вопрос
ties
с точки
together?
зрения
Let's look at
официальной
it
истории.
from a point of history.
Воровское
Organized
движение
crime did not appear in the
возникло не в
20th or even the
20-м и даже не
19th
в
century.
19
We
веке.
researched
Мы
this
исследовали
question,
воровскую
the
традицию
organized
на Руси.
crime in Russia.
Она пришла из
And
Греции.
it came from Greece.
Да.
It came from Greece, and it came to the territory that right now we call Russia, Belarus, and
На
Ukraine.
то место, которое мы сегодня называем Россия, Украина и, так сказать, Белоруссия.
As you
Как вы
remember,
помните,
at
в
this
это время в
time
острогах
were locked
на Руси
away
находились
the
заточенные
нестяжатели,
нестяжатели, то
the
есть
priests
священники,
that were
которые были
unpleasant
неугодны
for the monarch
правящему
ruler.
монарху.
And this is the
Таким
point where they
образом,
met the
острог и
organized
тюрьма
crime and
стали
the
точкой
Orthodox
пересечения
priests
преступного
because they were
элемента
locked away
и
in the same
православного
place.
духовенства.
Here they were
Здесь они были вынуждены каким-то
forced to
способом
interact with each other.
взаимодействовать друг с другом.
And what we have at the
Что в
end
итоге?
now is
Спустя несколько
hundreds of years
столетий
later,
по какой-то
the
причине
organized
воровских
crime
авторитетов стали
idols
называть
started to
священниками
be called
преступного мира.
the holy fathers of
Почему
organized
так?
crime. So what
Какая
ties does
связь
the
между
Orthodox
ворами и
religion and
православным
the
духовенством?
organized crime have in
Может ли
common?
быть,
Is it
что
possible
одна
that
традиция
one
породила
tradition
другую?
gave birth
Для
to the
проведения
other? To
исследований
get some answers,
проведем
let's do some
сравнительный
research.
анализ
What we
этих
did is we
систем.
took
Дальше я
the hierarchy of the organized
взял
crime.
воровскую иерархию.
At the very
которая
top, we
как бы
have the con
существует.
artist.
Начиная от
Then we have the
мошенников на
thieves,
самом
burglars,
верху,
then we have
воров,
racketeers, and at the end we have
грабителей,
the
рекетёров
torpedoes,
и
as they're
торпед
called.
этих силовиков.
And I compared it to the
И сравнил с
system of
афонской
Mount
системой.
Athos. And what we
В
have
итоге
is three
получилось три
identical
абсолютно
vertical
аналогичных
systems.
вертикальных систем.
And right now, the
Корули,
gentleman that's speaking Russian,
поселения,
he's
скиты,
naming
монастыри,
all those
воры,
different
авторитеты,
labels, and they're all
жулики и
identical,
торпеды, старцы,
identical vertical
уважаемые
system.
монахи и послушники.
Мы
And
можем
now that we have
совершенно
this,
спокойно
we can
теперь
compare
это
it
всё
to the
сопоставить
vertical finance
с,
system. The
вертикальной
vertical
системой
finance system consists of the
Вертикальная
jamming
система
money,
финансов
the distance
состоит
money,
из клинящих,
the linear money,
дистанционных,
and the
плоскостных
power
и
money.
ударных денег.
Comparing all those
Сравнивая
blocks,
каждый
we
из
have
получаем
complete
четкое
identical
соответствие.
systems.
Ударные деньги
The
зарабатывают
power money
вверх
is earned by the top of the
В данном
hierarchy.
случае это
On
корули,
Athos, they're called
воры
karuli,
и старцы.
vorы и
Плоскостные
starцы.
деньги,
The linear
поселения,
type of money is earned
авторитеты,
by, they're
уважаемые
called the
монахи.
respectful
Дистанционные
monarchs.
деньги,
The distance
скиты,
money is earned by
жулики и
skiti,
монахи.
жулики, and
Клинящие
monахи.
деньги,
And the
послушники,
jamming money is
торпеды
earned by
и
the
монастыри.
torpedoes
То есть
and the
система
monasteries.
финансов
So the mechanism of
абсолютно
creating
что?
the finance
Построение
system is
финансовой-
completely
механизм построения
identical.
финансовой системы
As you can see
совершенно
here
что?
in the notebook.
Идентичен.
Everybody has a block that they're in charge of.
Каждый отвечает
This
за
is
свой
why
как бы
them
блок.
working
И они
together
поэтому не могут
keeps
разойтись
them
в разные стороны, потому что
successful.
у них нет
Because as soon as
финансовой
one of
системы,
those blocks
принадлежащей
leaves,
каждому как
then
бы
everything will
человеку.
fall
Они
apart.
зависимы друг от друга, потому что если не будет вот этой единой финансовой системы, это все
and the key factor to a finance system like this
Основой любой
are
системы
people.
являются
And
люди.
how do you prepare
Подготовить
people
таких
to
людей.
be able
Что
to do
обеспечивает
these
такую
type of tasks?
эффективность и
What preparation
работоспособность
system
монахов
allows
на
them to be
фоне?
so effective? They have a
основе
certain method that they
лежит
use to prepare their
определенная
people,
методика,
but I don't
которую
think
вряд
they're
ли
going to
они вам
tell
расскажут.
anybody about
Однако
that
нам
method.
известна
But we
методика,
know the system
которая
that gave birth
предшествовала
to the system that they
афонской
use on Mount Athos,
Древний
and that is the ancient tractate called Hadum. Now, I want to analyze the actions of some people and compare it to the Hadum. The first block is to free yourself from
освобождение от зависимости.
attachments. Let's look at the first block. When a person comes into a church, he detaches himself from the rest of the world. In doing so, it frees his will and frees his strength. So that's the first block of the Hadum, and as you can see, that's exactly identical to the Athos system. So the monks on Athos, they don't have anything holding them. They're completely free from the outside world. Now focus your attention back on the organized crime. The high ranks of that system, the respected people, they are on a certain level of detachment of this world. In their rules, it says you're not supposed to have a wife or anything that belongs to you. But the 21st century businessman thinks complete opposite of that. They think the things that they own is what makes them powerful and gives them a certain rank in society. The second block is rational withholdings. Now let's look at the monastery rules. That is exactly what that is. So we can see, again, it's identical. So the second block completely matches Hadum. Block number 3, interval withholdings. Now let's look at the monks. Do monks fast? They don't eat for certain periods of time. Yes, of course they do. So once again, the third block is followed to a T. Now if you look at the 21st century businessman, they try to get away from this interval withholdings, and they want to go and take a vacation as soon as possible. But in reality, new attachments grow on them, on those businessmen. They get new attachments. Block number 4 is to say no to fake withholdings, something that you made up and you made it into a withholding. Let's get back to the monasteries. Do they have people that keep an eye on those fake withholdings? Yes, they do. They have people that do just that, and they punish people that don't follow that rule. In the organized crime, there's also a hierarchy, and they also have people that make sure that all the rules and laws are followed. Those people are allowed to take certain action against people that don't follow those rules. Block number 5 could be described as hardiness. A person that doesn't strive and give it all that he has in working on himself. That type of person is kind of unable to grind the outside world into what he needs. Kind of make it seem like they're disattached from the world and not a part of anything. But as we can see from Arianopolis, there's constantly people going and leaving, and a lot of missionaries that travel the world and so to say spread the missionary word. They take their goods that cost a lot of money and they spread it all over the world. So just like the system of Hadum, they do everything by the book, step by step. Block number 6 is a certain teaching, a certain school. Now, do they have a certain teaching, a certain school? Yes, of course. They have gurus, they have their own teaching. Of course, they have a certain teaching and they're constantly working on themselves tirelessly. And their goal is prayer, because working on yourself is prayer. But of course, following the teaching of Hadum is just part of what makes this island so successful. It allows it on thousands of years to keep their financial steady and growing. And this is the reason that the church is the most richest structure in the world, is because they follow the teaching of Hadum down to a T. And the less somebody follows this teaching of Hadum, the weaker they become. And the weirdest thing is that you guys take advice from marketing gurus, from millionaires that for some reason appeared out of nowhere and then disappear, from companies that only exist a couple of years, but you don't take advice or don't take into consideration the most effective structures like Mount Athos. Official history tells us that this structure is over 1500 years old. Every business has its secret. Coca-Cola has its secret formula. Mackenzie has their communication system. And for Mount Athos, it is the technology of the missionaries. Their secret is based on preparing missionaries that are very qualified, and they go all over the world and are able to set up camp there and represent the system that they came from. And they're constantly in conflict with the Rein system, the Jewish system. Of course,
The fight, the battle is for the customers.
С рейнской традицией за право ну, как бы, иметь первенство, как бы.
How was Mount
Как
Athos
Афону
able to
удалось
open
открыть филиалы
a
на
branch
всех
on
континентах
every single
и
continent
создать одну
and
из
create
самых
one of the
мощнейших
most
сетевых структур?
strongest
Разве не о
net
такой
systems?
перспективе
And this is
мечтает
exactly what every
большинство
businessman
современных
dreams
бизнесменов?
about